Okay, so hello everybody. Pam, this is Pam from Around the Table Yarns. This is our one, two, three, fourth session of the Tunisian Sampler Shawl project. So I just wanted to show you, I've got one more forward and return pass to go in this week's or this month's clue, but I want to show you how mine was going. Got to add a bright color, which I like. So it is coming along. I'm really loving how this is coming out. It's been really fun. And so far I haven't lost my center, which is exciting. I kept thinking I'm all of a sudden I'm going to look down and it's not going to be in the middle, and so far it stayed in the middle. So that's all good. Um so this week, or this month I should say, I'm going to be covering our first two color section. Um that's called Brickwork. And in her pattern, it is section number 5. Um, I kind of love and don't love it at the same time. I love how it looks. I don't like that you have to cut off your yarn at each end to get the two color. So that's the downside to that. Because you do your forward pass in one color and you do your return pass in a second color, and you can't carry the yarn with you. So you do have ends to deal with, but I'm going to show you how I dealt with them because they did get in my way at one end, and I ended up with 2 extra stitches. So I'll show you how to avoid that in your section. Learn from my mistakes. And then luckily it's only a 7-row section. So, you'll have 14 ends to weave away. So that's the downside. And the stitch I'm going to show you is a little fiddly. It's not hard, but it is a little fiddly. So hopefully you will catch on to that quickly. And I did find, I think, the easiest way to do it. I watched a lot of YouTube videos looking how different people did this particular twisted stitch. And I think I found a good way for us to do it. So let's move on to Brickwork. Oh, I think my yarn is attached here. Me cut it off. So you need to have scissors handy for this section. And okay, let me share my camera. Okay. Zoom in here. There we go. So yeah, Beth walked by this. She's like, "What's that little mini thing you got going?" I'm like, "That is my answer to not having to work across an entire shawl during class." So I went ahead and I did the the forward pass of the transition row. The transition row for this pattern, um, pay attention because I actually did not do it correctly on my shawl. Um, our previous pattern had been basket weave where you did, 3 knit stitches, 3 purl stitches, and I did the same thing with my new color. I read the first part, but not the second part. When you're doing your transition row, you're going to pick your first forward pass color. You're going to do your increase as usual. You're going to start with 3 knit stitches, but instead of doing purl stitches where the purls were, you're just going to do simple stitches. So you'll do 3 knit, 3 simple, 3 knit, 3 simple, 3 knit, 3 simple, 3 knit, 3 simple. So anytime that you would have done a purl, you're going to do a simple stitch, which goes much faster. As you know, the purl slows you down just a little bit, all the way across. Okay, so that'll be your forward pass. Your return pass is the same. You always do the return pass the same, but you're going to be doing it in a new color. So when you get to the end, Slide my hook back in. When you get to the end, you're going to cut your forward pass yarn. Leave yourself a long enough tail that you can weave it away. And you're going to pick up your return pass color. And I did it a couple of ways on my shawl. Let me show you. Just like in regular crochet, your final yarn over should be in your new color when you're changing color. So originally I started it when I did my chain 1 before I started my return pass. And then I started doing it with into the final stitch, I used my new color. And you can see the difference. Now remember, this gets a border, so this will get hidden, so I don't particularly care. But that is the difference. I'm going to let you choose. I finally decided that I liked doing it into my final stitch because it just was a little more solid. Instead of changing color on a chain 1, it's kind of loosey-goosey. It was easier to get my tension together. All right, so that's what I'm going to demonstrate today. But you could choose to change your color on the chain 1 after you make your final stitch. Just want to give you a heads up that that's what it'll look like. It'll be different, but it doesn't really matter because you're going to get a border that's going to cover that edge. All right. And you're still using the same colors. I don't know that it really matters. All right. So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to go into, zoom in just. There we go. Okay. I'm going to go into my final stitch. This is when you wish the Tunisian hook had a little bend in it. Okay. I'm going to do the yarn over with my new color. So I make a loop and I leave a tail and I loop my new color over and I pull that back through and then not using my tail, I chain 1 and then I'm ready to return pass. I'm just going to do the first return pass there. And this is where I stopped. And this is where my fatal error was. I just went all the way across and I left these ends hanging. And then, we're getting to some pretty long rows now. So I maybe didn't finish a whole row in one day. So it went back in my bag. It came out, it went back in my bag. And when I came back across my second row, came back to my end, like these ends, some of these ends had really pulled out and were like this. And I ended up losing, as I went to go put it back together, I ended up creating too many stitches. So here is my suggestion. Do a stitch or two here or a return pass for a couple of stitches and then take your two ends. And this is the same thing I do when I'm changing colors in knitting and crochet. I don't know why I didn't think to do it. Do just a half knot loosely, but enough so that it keeps the shape of the stitch correctly. Because then you can go on and it's going to keep those stitches so that when I come back to it, I'm going to have the right number of stitches. I thought I was being careful and I wasn't. So what ended up as I worked back, I'll just tell you, it ended up, I didn't count my stitches until maybe 2 rows later. And I realized I had 2 extra stitches on the left side of the shawl, which was, 1 stitch, I'll fudge it, but 2, I figured I was doing something wrong. And in fact, I was doing something wrong in a couple of places. So I will show you all of my errors because I actually left them in the shawl. Because at that point I was not going back. But I definitely screwed up on the end. And then I sat and I took the time to tie all those ends together and now it looks fine. So take the time right there on both the forward and the return pass when you change colors, move a stitch or two away from the edge and then tie your two ends together. You'll be grateful later. Don't tie it in a huge knot that is impossible to get out, just enough to hold it together so that you can then weave it away, take it apart and weave it away later. Okay. All right. So you return pass. So this is the return pass for our transition row. All right. So I have one more yarn over to do. So it's time to switch colors. These were the bits I used in class today. So I had cut my return pass color, left a tail, and I'll take my forward pass color, loop it over, a little, and do my last yarn over pull through with my new color. And then your new color is ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and do my full stitch, my increase stitch, because that doesn't change. And then I'll tie my ends together. Oops. Okay. I have a lot of ends going here, so let's make sure I'm picking the right ends. Not my main. Here we go. An end and an end. So I'm just going to give them a little half knot, just enough so that they stay together. Depending on your yarn, if you need to do a little more than that, that's fine. Just make sure you can get them apart so you can weave them away later. And let's find our working yarn. Okay, now onto our pattern row. So we're with our forward pass color, and we are going to start with our full stitch to do our increase. And then we are going to do, I'm just making sure I'm right here, a Tunisian simple stitch in the next one. So just a regular simple stitch and a twisted simple stitch in the next. So a twisted simple stitch, instead of a simple stitch where you come in from the right underneath the vertical bar, with a twisted stitch, you come in from this side. You catch it from the left side and pull it through. So here's the things that I saw in different videos. I'm like, what? People were pulling up on the loop and then holding it and then getting their hook in there like this, and then you yarn over and pull through. And what you get is you have to look at the bar below. Don't look at the loops on your hook. The bar below, it leans to the right. The twist makes it lean to the right, okay? Well, we're at this point, we're like 100 stitches on each side. Doing this and then turning it around was a little more than I could bear. So I went hunting, and the best way I found was to use the edge of your hook here, right here, and I'm going to do the simple stitch in the next. So let me do my simple stitch. And the next one's is twisted. I used the hook to catch it from the left side, and then I just pushed my hook up and yarned over, pulled through. Much simpler. Okay, so you're going to do this all the way across. Regular simple stitch, twisted simple stitch. So I catch it with the hook, and I'll show you what not to do. And push it up, yarn over, pull through. Here's what not to do. Don't catch it, because the easy thing to do is to catch it and pull down and loop it like that. Because what happens when you pull it through is you double twist it. And it actually doesn't make the bar lean left. It makes, lean right. It makes the loop underneath lean right. Okay. So I'll do that part again. Don't come under. Don't twist it under. Grab that and twist it up. And then yarn over, pull through. Okay. You're going to find that if you're really tight, that this is a little tough. So you're going to want to really, when you do your transition row, try to make those, if you're tight, if you're not tight, don't worry about it. But if you're tight, you're going to find this part right here hard to get into. And even some of my stitches, because sometimes they're not always perfectly even, um, I had to maybe pull it up just a little so I could get in there easier. Okay, so now I've stopped in the middle. Here's my other tip to you. And I don't know what I've done. Have I done a simple stitch? Have I done a, twisted stitch? And when I first started, I was like, oh, I had to go all the way back. Okay, so this was my full stitch. This was my and count it over. And then it occurred to me that I needed to be looking at the bars underneath. So here is, if I look at these two stitches right here, this is the simple stitch. It leans mostly straight up, but a little to the left. And the twisted stitch definitely leans to the right. You can definitely tell which one is leaning to the right. So I know that one was a a twisted stitch. So this one, again, I'm not looking at the loop on the hook. I am looking at the stitch underneath. It's mostly going straight up, even a little to the left. So then I know this one must be twisted. Now I pulled on it. And the other thing you might do is start to catch some of the strands from your return pass. The good news is your return pass is a different color, and you're going to know right away if you've not caught everything you need to do, that if you've caught the wrong strands. All right. So again, simple, twisted. All right. So let's work across here. Simple and twisted. I will tell you the first, getting to your center stitch on this is a little bit of a slow go, but you do find a rhythm. And I would say every so often, because we do have so many stitches now on the hook, you have to stop and kind of slide up your cord or whatnot. Stop and take a look and make sure that it's looking like you've got pairs of stitches. Make sure it looks like you can see they pair up, simple and twist, that they're leaning into each other. So that's a good indicator that things are looking, that they're on the right track. Okay. It's much easier after you get the first row done. Okay. So that's leaning right. So I know I finished with the twisted, simple, and twisted, simple, and so that was I should have stopped there. That was a good example of catching my return pass. Simple. I do it about every fourth or fifth stitch. I'm sure I'll do it again. So here we go. You can see I'm starting to catch some of my return pass yarn, but since it's a different color, it's really easy to catch that before you get too far. You just have to slide it off. Okay, so far so good. Simple and twisted. So you're going to repeat this pairing until it's time to do your center decrease. Simple and twisted. Now, I told the morning group that you should finish with a simple stitch, and I just proved that you actually don't finish with a simple stitch. So just go with your, let's zoom out just a little here. Yeah. We're going to go all the way up, and the pattern should finish with a twisted stitch. All right. So now I'm to my center. You do your center as usual. A full stitch. Let's take this out. A knit stitch. It is a little easier to see where you're putting that center because you got two different colors for your stitch. And my full stitch. Put this one back. There we go. Okay. Now on this half, and the pattern tells you this, we're going to start with a twisted stitch and work our way back down. So it's the mirror image. So we finish with a twisted, we start with a twisted. I actually need to call my class people and told them I did that wrong. All right, so twist. And this first one, I will tell you right after, I think the first couple of stitches right after the center increase are some of the toughest because this is when I want that hook to bend and it just doesn't. And it's even harder when you're trying to twist. So just kind of work it through there. There we go. Twist and simple. Twist. There it goes. And simple. And I think by about this point, then it starts to get pretty good. Twist. And this one should end with a simple. Come on. So not all of them are going to be super easy. Definitely feel like a little bit of a beginner here. Okay, there we go. And we'll finish with a simple and then do our full stitch increase. And then I'm going to switch my return pass. I go in to make my end stitch. Loop my yarn over and pull it through. Come on. Chain one. Do one of these. I'm going to stop and tie my two ends together. And this is your chance to kind of make sure everything's good. You know, if things look a little loose on the ends, you know, you'll be able to undo these and tighten up your end stitches if you need to. You'll have those yarn ends to do. And return pass back. And I'm already starting to, you know, try to keep it a little bit looser because I know I got to work into those stitches a little bit differently. Same way I felt when I was doing those purl stitches. I just needed to give myself a little bit more, a little looser in my tension. So because I'm using a sport weight yarn and I'm using a fairly decently sized hook here, I felt like this particular stitch didn't look exactly like her example, like my little things that look like the dividing up the little bricks are a little more rounded. They're not straight up and down like hers are here. Mine don't seem to go straight up and down. I don't particularly care. I think mine look fine. I know I'm doing it right. Um, but I think that is mostly because I'm doing a slightly thinner yarn with still a fairly decent size hook. So I think it's just not pulling them together quite as snugly. But I still think it looks great. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to share with you as we work across, so that you have just one pattern row. That's what you're doing all the way across. And because we've added increases, why is that so loose? There we go. Because we've added increases here, if we've done this correctly, it should be a little bit offset. And let's do This one, and then switch. Just put over, whoop, working yarn. Okay. Let me do a stitch, my full stitch here, and then I'll tie my ends together. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to, on this side, on the right-hand side, you start with the simple stitch. Let me get all this other yarn out of the way. So simple, and then twisted. Simple and twisted. And then let me just do a few more here, and I'm going to show you how to kind of read your stitches to make sure that to help you stay on track. We'll get a little bit more here to see. And then I'll show you where I screwed up. Because I wasn't reading my stitches. Simple. That one's twisted. This one is simple. And this one is twisted. Okay. All right, so what's going to happen is that on this row, our little brickwork is going to come in between. It's going to be offset by one. So it's going to come in between from the row below. Okay. And another way to check that you're doing the correct stitch, let me zoom in just a little here. So I just finished with a twisted stitch. So you want to look to see that they're offset like this. And I'm going to show you in my other work, they line up perfectly, which means I did it wrong. On the previous row, so not, if we look down here, this one had been a simple stitch, and this one had been a twisted stitch. So this was the loop that was on the hook after we made the twisted stitch. So you're putting, my next stitch is a simple, and I'm putting a simple into a twisted, and then a twisted into a simple. So that's why it does what it's supposed to do. But you have to kind of look a row below. And I think it's because of the different color return pass that it makes it look like it's so much further away. But if you can see how they're paired up, we made a simple here and a twisted here. This was a simple here and a twisted here. And this was the loop that's coming out of the twisted. So I know since it was twisted here, it's going to be simple up here. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Now, here's what happens if you don't do it. So this one is twisted. You know what? I'm just going to switch. I'm going to do this one simple, even though it's supposed to be twisted. Twist, simple. Twist, and a simple, and a, come on, and a twist. And what happens is they line up. So every so often, as you're moving your yarn up or your hook up, take a look at it. And if you see this happening, you are off because they should be offset, not lining up on top of each other. So this is where it's really easy to go back. So this is lining up, this is lining up, this is lining up. Clearly it was here that I screwed up. Okay. So I did not do that in my big shawl. And I not only did I do it once, I did it many times, all in the same area right after the center. I've got three, I got off here and somehow I got back on track without realizing it. So I screwed up a couple of times. I am not going back and redoing those. It is just going to be part of my journey. I'm going to own it and it looks fine. It wasn't until I finally kind of laid it out and looked, I'm like, hey, look what I did right there. So that's what's to avoid. But it's easy to see the error once you know kind of how these stitches are created. So take this back. If you know how to read these stitches, you'll be in good shape. So go back to where you know it's correct. I know because this is leaning to the right, this was twisted, so my next one must be simple. And I know it's simple because it's coming out of a twisted. And then you can get back on track. And then these stitches are pulled nice and loose, so they go a little bit faster when you have to redo it. Just a little bonus. Okay, and now it's back on track. Are there any questions about that part? No? Okay. So I think I brought it over with me. I found, oh, I went through and I did the stitch counts for you. I'll do them for you right now. Once I got off track, then I realized like, oh, let's get back on track. Really thought I wrote them down. I must have left them on the other side of the shop. Okay, so after your transition row, you should have 205 stitches. Okay.
Mhm.
After pattern row, which means you'll have 102 on each side, 102, and then one in the middle. Okay. At,
Mhm.
at the end of, I'm going to write it over here and you can copy it down. After pattern row 1, so you have to do this 6 times, this pattern row 6 times. Okay. So after 1, you're going to have, because we add 209, and then 213, and then 217. Hopefully I'm doing my math right. And then 221, and then 225, and then 229. So that's your total stitch count for each of your rows. And then for row 1, yes, take a picture. It should be 104 on each side. And on this one, it should be 106, 108, 110, 112, and 114 on each side. Okay. Plus your single one in the middle. So I found that, so I wrote this down at the end. So you should have 114 on each side and one in the center when you're completed. And it's easy to tell because we had our transition row. And then I can count my return passes. So I should have a total of 7 return passes. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have one more forward and return pass to do to complete this. So the 2 colors does help you with recognizing any errors that you've made. I think that's great. The downside is you've got some ends to deal with, but hopefully by tying them together, it keeps your edge nice and straight. And even if it is a little loose, when it comes time, and we'll do this for all of our ends where we changed colors, we'll undo those little knots and we'll have the end right there to tidy up any of those first stitches. And then we'll be covering them with a border anyway, so they'll look great. So we won't worry too much about that until it's border day. So that's the twisted stitch. I just want to look at my notes and make sure there wasn't something else I wanted to tell you. Be a little loose. It leans to the right. Um, yeah, so when you come up to the center, the only other thing, and I have to call my people who came to class today because I told them wrong, as you come up to the center, your last stitch before your increase should be a twisted stitch. And then your first one on this side is a twisted stitch. And your last one on this side before the increase should be a simple stitch. So they begin, the rows on each end begin and end with simple stitches. And on either side of the center, twisted stitch and twisted stitch, if that helps you think about it that way. Just another little check to make sure you're staying on track. Because clearly it's easy to get off track with that little twisted stitch.
Now I can see why we're only doing one section this month.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, and I was like, how many rows of this do I have to do? But once I figured out that hooking it and pulling it through, it went much faster.
Mhm.
The pulling it up and twisting it around and coming through, I'm like, we are going to have to do something else because I am not a fan. But that worked out great. So, it does move along pretty good. Keep your tension as loose as you can, and you'll be fine. Is there any other questions?
How many are we going to do for next time? I just want to know.
Yeah. So next month we're just going to do one. We're doing the reverse stitch.
Okay.
Yeah, I was reading ahead. I'm like, uh-oh.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, we're just going to do one. We don't do two again until July. And that's the only other time.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
I think I picked them because one of them is really easy and the other one is slightly tricky, but they're not as thick. They're a little
Okay.
bit thinner rows.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we should be good. Yeah. So next month we'll do reverse and then honeycomb, which is a stitch I love. That one goes pretty quick. And we have two others that will include two colors, but the rest of them are single colors. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
I think we'll be good. Well,
All
thank
right.
you, everybody.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. I'm really enjoying this project. I hope you guys are
Mhm.
too. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, reach out via email or Instagram, whatever, and let me know if you've got any questions. And if not, I'll see you guys next month.
Okay. Well,
All
thank
All right.
you.
Thanks a
Thanks.
lot.
Uh-huh. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.